Tibet, a land often described as the roof of the world. It's a place of stunning natural beauty, where towering mountains kiss the sky and vast plains stretch endlessly. But Tibet is much more than its breathtaking landscapes. It's a land steeped in mystery, spirituality, and a profound cultural heritage that has shaped its identity for centuries. When we think of Tibet, we often imagine tranquil monasteries, monks in saffron robes, and the resonant hum of Buddhist chants. Yet behind this serene image lies a story of resilience, power struggles, and cultural transformation. Tibetan history is a rich tapestry woven with threads of ancient kingdoms, spiritual awakening, and political intrigue. At the heart of Tibetan identity is its deep connection to Buddhism. Introduced in the 7th century, this spiritual tradition didn't just influence the lives of individuals, it became the very foundation of Tibetan society. The teachings of the Buddha, brought from India, transformed the region into a center of learning, meditation, and enlightenment. Monasteries became sanctuaries of knowledge, preserving texts, art, and practices that continue to inspire the world. But Tibet's history wasn't always one of peace. For centuries, it found itself at the crossroads of powerful empires. Its strategic location between China and India made it a coveted prize. Alliances were forged and broken, and conflicts arose as these colossal neighbors sought to expand their influence over this mystical land. One of the most pivotal moments in Tibetan history was the rise of the Dalai Lama as both a spiritual and political leader. This unique system of governance, blending religion with statecraft, brought stability but also made Tibet a target of outside forces. The 20th century in particular saw tremendous upheaval, with Tibet becoming a focal point of global attention. Today, as we look back at Tibetan history, we see a story of perseverance, a story of a people who have safeguarded their culture and spirituality against all odds. It's a history that invites us to reflect on the values of compassion, resilience, and the enduring power of faith. So, the next time you think of Tibet, remember, it's not just a place of awe-inspiring beauty. It's a land with a soul, a history, and a message that resonates far beyond its borders. Join us on this journey into the heart of Tibetan history, where spirituality and resilience converge in one of the most fascinating stories of human civilization. Tibet's story begins in the heart of one of the most remote and extraordinary regions of the world, the Tibetan Plateau. This vast expanse, often referred to as the roof of the world, may appear isolated to the casual observer. But in ancient times, it was anything but. Tibet was a vibrant crossroads of trade, culture, and spirituality, where ideas and traditions flowed as freely as the mountain streams. Centuries ago, the Tibetan Plateau served as a bridge between powerful civilizations. To the east, the mighty Chinese dynasties like the Tang viewed Tibet as both a formidable rival and a vital partner in the region. Their relationship was complex, marked by alliances, marriages, and at times, fierce competition. To the south, India, the birthplace of Buddhism, offered profound spiritual teachings that found a deeply receptive audience among the Tibetan people. It was during the 7th century that these connections began to shape Tibet's identity in ways that would echo through history. King Songtsen Gampo, one of Tibet's most legendary rulers, played a pivotal role in weaving these threads together. He embraced Buddhism, bringing its teachings into Tibet and establishing it as a cornerstone of Tibetan culture. His marriage to a Chinese princess and an Indian princess symbolized Tibet's position at the crossroads of these great civilizations, blending their influences into a unique and enduring legacy. Buddhism, with its message of compassion, wisdom, and spiritual awakening, transformed Tibet into a land of monasteries and meditation. Monks became the guardians of knowledge, preserving sacred texts and practices that traveled along the ancient trade routes. The fusion of Indian philosophy and Tibetan interpretation gave rise to a distinctive form of Buddhism that continues to inspire millions worldwide. But Tibet's story was not solely one of spiritual awakening. Its strategic location made it a focal point for power struggles and alliances. As Chinese dynasties sought to expand their influence westward, and Indian kingdoms looked northward, Tibet stood at the center of a delicate balance. Its leaders navigated these dynamics with a mix of diplomacy, strength, and profound faith. The cultural and spiritual exchanges between Tibet, China, and India shaped not only Tibetan history, but also its identity. Tibet became a beacon of Buddhist wisdom, a place where ancient teachings were preserved and reinterpreted. It was here, amidst the towering peaks and vast plains, that a unique civilization flourished, a civilization that stands as a testament to the enduring power of spirituality and cultural resilience. As we explore Tibet's history, we uncover a story that transcends borders and time. It's a story of connections, faith, and the unyielding spirit of a people who have safeguarded their traditions against all odds. Tibet's past is a reminder that even in the most remote corners of the earth, humanity's shared history and spirituality can converge to create something extraordinary. So let's journey into this fascinating history, where the threads of Buddhism, diplomacy, and resilience come together to form the intricate tapestry of Tibetan identity. Imagine this: brave monks navigating treacherous mountain passes, carrying with them sacred teachings from India to Tibet. Their journey was not just a physical challenge, but a spiritual mission, a quest to bring the profound wisdom of Buddhism to the heart of the Tibetan plateau. These daring efforts marked the beginning of a golden age for the 7th century Tibetan Empire, a time when Tibet emerged not just as a political power, but as a thriving cultural epicenter of Buddhism. But what sparked this transformative era? And why did Tibet, with its proximity to China, look southward to India for spiritual inspiration? The answers lie deep in the soul of Tibetan kingship and its unwavering thirst for enlightenment. The story begins with Songtsen Gampo, one of Tibet's greatest kings. He was more than a ruler. He was a visionary who recognized the transformative power of Buddhism. Fascinated by the teachings of the Buddha, he sought to bring them to his kingdom, not merely as a religion, but as a foundation for moral and social harmony. Songtsen Gampo forged alliances with India through his marriage to Princess Brikuti, an ardent Buddhist. She introduced sacred texts, rituals, and relics to Tibet, planting the seeds of a spiritual revolution. At the same time, Songtsen Gampo's marriage to a Chinese princess brought valuable cultural and political connections. Yet when it came to matters of the spirit, Tibet turned to India, a land seen as the birthplace of enlightenment. Indian Buddhist scholars and monks brought authentic teachings and a deep spiritual tradition that resonated with the Tibetan soul. They carried not only scriptures, but also a profound philosophy of compassion, wisdom, and the pursuit of inner peace. These exchanges laid the groundwork for Tibet's unique form of Buddhism, blending Indian teachings with Tibetan interpretation. Monasteries flourished, becoming centers of learning, meditation, and spiritual practice. They weren't just places of worship. They were vibrant hubs of intellectual and artistic expression. Sanskrit texts were translated into Tibetan, ensuring the survival of invaluable teachings that might have otherwise been lost to history. Yet this golden age was not without its challenges. The harsh landscapes, political rivalries, and logistical hurdles made the preservation and spread of Buddhism a monumental task. But the determination of Tibetan kings, scholars, and monks never wavered. Their unwavering commitment to enlightenment turned a rugged, remote plateau into a beacon of spiritual wisdom for the entire world. Tibet's choice to look to India for inspiration wasn't just geographical, it was deeply philosophical. India offered a wellspring of spiritual knowledge, a treasure trove of wisdom that aligned with Tibet's quest for enlightenment. In contrast, while China's influence was felt in trade and politics, it was India's teachings that touched the Tibetan heart. Today, as we reflect on Tibetan history, we see a story of resilience and spiritual ambition, a story of a people who embraced Buddhism not as a borrowed tradition, but as a path to transform their society. Tibet's golden age reminds us of the power of faith, the value of cultural exchange, and the enduring legacy of those who dared to carry wisdom across the highest peaks. So let's delve deeper into this extraordinary chapter of Tibetan history, where the pursuit of enlightenment turned a mountain kingdom into a spiritual treasure trove, inspiring generations to come. China's historical claims over Tibet are layered with centuries of imperial politics and shifting power dynamics. To understand this complex relationship, we must journey back to the time of the Yuan and Qing dynasties, when Tibet found itself at the intersection of autonomy and submission. But here's the surprising truth. Tibet was never just a passive pawn in these political games. Through the power of religion, Tibetan leaders held remarkable influence in the Chinese imperial court, shaping a dynamic far more intricate than the simple label of vassal state suggests. During the Yuan dynasty in the 13th century, the Mongols, under Kublai Khan, unified vast territories, including Tibet, under their rule. But their approach to governance in Tibet was unique. Instead of imposing direct control, the Mongols recognized Tibet's spiritual authority. They sought guidance from Tibetan Buddhist leaders, particularly the Sakya school, whose religious teachings resonated deeply with the Mongol rulers. In exchange for their spiritual counsel, Tibetan lamas were granted significant autonomy to govern their own land. This arrangement wasn't one of domination, but rather a symbiotic relationship where spirituality met political strategy. Centuries later, during the Qing dynasty, this relationship took on new dimensions. The Qing emperors, particularly Kangxi and Qianlong, saw Tibet as a key region for maintaining stability along their western frontier. They solidified ties with Tibetan Buddhist leaders, particularly the Dalai Lamas, recognizing their influence not only within Tibet, but also over Mongol and Himalayan regions. The Qing court positioned itself as a protector of Tibetan Buddhism, commissioning temples and supporting religious institutions to strengthen their connection. However, this wasn't simply a one-sided narrative of submission. Tibetan leaders understood the power of their spiritual authority and used it to navigate these complex relationships. The Dalai Lamas, seen as living embodiments of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, wielded immense influence over Buddhist followers, including those in China and Mongolia. This spiritual clout gave Tibetan leaders leverage, allowing them to negotiate terms and maintain a degree of autonomy even under imperial oversight. The perception of Tibet as a vassal state arose from these historical entanglements, but it oversimplifies the nuanced reality. While Tibetan leaders engaged with Chinese courts, they did so as spiritual equals, offering religious legitimacy in exchange for political alliances. This relationship was not one of subjugation, but of mutual benefit, a delicate balance between faith and power. Buddhism was the glue that held this dynamic together. Tibetan lamas were not just religious figures, but also diplomats, bridging the gap between two civilizations. Their teachings and influence extended far beyond Tibet's borders, shaping the spiritual and political landscape of the region. This interplay of religion and politics is a testament to the unique role Tibet played in the imperial world. As we explore this chapter of Tibetan history, we uncover a story of resilience and agency, a story of leaders who used their spiritual authority to navigate the challenges of empire and maintain their cultural identity. It's a reminder that even in the face of powerful neighbors, Tibet was never merely a bystander but a significant player in its own right. So let's dive deeper into this fascinating history, where the threads of religion and politics intertwine, revealing a relationship that continues to shape the perception of Tibet on the global stage. India's influence on Tibet runs deep, weaving a rich tapestry of shared history, culture, and spirituality. While Buddhism is the most profound connection between the two, their relationship extends far beyond religion. Ancient trade routes carved through the rugged Himalayas brought spices, textiles, and other goods to Tibet, but more importantly, they carried philosophical ideas, art, and cultural practices that would profoundly shape Tibetan society. The bond between India and Tibet began to take form over 1,000 years ago, during the golden age of Buddhism. Indian scholars and monks, such as the legendary Padmasambhava and Atisha, traveled to Tibet, carrying sacred texts and teachings. These pioneers not only brought the wisdom of the Buddha, but also laid the foundations of Tibetan Buddhism, which blended Indian philosophy with Tibetan cultural elements. The result was a spiritual tradition uniquely Tibetan, yet deeply rooted in Indian thought. But India's connection with Tibet wasn't limited to the ancient past. The ties endured, strengthened by mutual respect and shared values. When China's presence in Tibet grew stronger in the 20th century, India became a sanctuary for Tibetan refugees, offering them a place to preserve their culture and identity. In 1959, the Dalai Lama, Tibet's spiritual leader, fled to India seeking refuge. India welcomed him with open arms, providing not just a safe haven but also a platform to continue his spiritual mission. Even today, the foothills of the Himalayas in Dharamshala serve as a home for the Tibetan government in exile. This small town has become a symbol of India's enduring commitment to Tibetan culture and spirituality. Tibetan refugees in India have preserved their traditions through schools, monasteries, and cultural institutions, ensuring that their rich heritage thrives despite the challenges they face. What makes India's relationship with Tibet unique compared to China's? The answer lies in the foundation of their bond, shared values, and a mutual reverence for spiritual heritage. While China's involvement with Tibet has often been marked by political and territorial interests, India's connection is rooted in respect and collaboration. India sees Tibet not as a region to dominate but as a spiritual ally, a land whose culture and wisdom complement its own. This mutual respect is evident in how Tibetan Buddhism has flourished in India. Monasteries, festivals, and teachings attract seekers from around the world, bridging the gap between ancient traditions and modern spiritual quests. India's role in safeguarding Tibetan culture goes beyond diplomacy. It's a testament to the deep, enduring ties between the two civilizations. As we delve into Tibetan history, it becomes clear that India's influence is not just a historical footnote, but a living connection that continues to inspire and uplift. The relationship between India and Tibet is a reminder of the power of shared heritage and the enduring strength of cultural and spiritual bonds. So let's explore this fascinating chapter of Tibetan history. A story of ancient trade, shared wisdom, and the unyielding spirit of a people who found a second home in India, while keeping their culture alive for future generations. As we fast forward to the 20th century, Tibet found itself at the center of a storm, its quest for independence colliding with the relentless forces of modern geopolitics. The year 1950 marked a dramatic turning point when Chinese forces marched into Tibet, declaring it an inseparable part of their nation. What followed was a period of upheaval, loss, and transformation. Yet beneath the headlines lies a story far more profound, a narrative of resilience, diplomacy, and cultural preservation against incredible odds. The Chinese invasion in 1950 shattered Tibet's centuries-old isolation. What had once been a kingdom defined by spirituality and autonomy was now thrust into the complexities of modern nation-states. For Tibetans, this was more than a political crisis. It was an existential battle to preserve their culture, religion, and identity. At the center of this struggle stood the Dalai Lama, a young leader tasked with guiding his people through an era of uncertainty. As tensions escalated, 1959 became a pivotal year. The Tibetan uprising against Chinese rule was met with a forceful crackdown, prompting the Dalai Lama to flee his homeland. With a heavy heart, he crossed the Himalayas into India, seeking refuge for himself and his people. India, bound by deep historical and spiritual ties to Tibet, welcomed the Dalai Lama with compassion, offering him and tens of thousands of Tibetan refugees a safe haven. From his exile in Dharamshala, the Dalai Lama embarked on a remarkable journey, not just as a spiritual leader but as a global diplomat and advocate for his people. His message of nonviolence and compassion resonated across the world, drawing attention to Tibet's plight while emphasizing the importance of preserving Tibetan Buddhism and culture. Despite losing their homeland, Tibetans found a way to keep their traditions alive, transforming their diaspora into a source of strength. Meanwhile, within Tibet, the Chinese government implemented sweeping changes, aiming to integrate the region into the broader framework of modern China. Monasteries were destroyed, and religious practices were suppressed during the Cultural Revolution. Yet Tibetan Buddhism endured, preserved in the hearts of the people and in the exiled communities who carried their faith and traditions wherever they went. The story of Tibet in the 20th century is not just one of struggle, it's a story of incredible resilience. In exile, Tibetans built schools, monasteries, and cultural institutions to safeguard their identity. Tibetan Buddhism found new audiences around the world, inspiring millions with its teachings of compassion, mindfulness, and inner peace. The Dalai Lama became a global icon, winning the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989 for his unwavering commitment to nonviolence. Through diplomacy and cultural preservation, Tibet has navigated the storm of modernity while clinging to its roots. The Tibetan people's ability to adapt without losing their essence is a testament to their strength and faith. Today, Tibet stands not only as a symbol of a nation's struggle for self-determination, but also as a beacon of hope, reminding the world of the enduring power of compassion and spirituality. As we unravel this complex era, we see that Tibet's history is more than a tale of conflict. It's a profound story of perseverance, unity, and the unyielding spirit of a people determined to keep their culture and values alive in the face of immense challenges. Let's explore this incredible chapter, where the threads of resilience and faith create a legacy that continues to inspire the world. Tibet's identity is a story of resilience, shaped over centuries by its deep spiritual roots and its interactions with powerful neighbors like China and India. It's a land defined not just by its towering mountains, but by a rich culture and a profound spiritual legacy. Yet today, as Tibet faces the twin challenges of global political pressures and rapid modernization, a pressing question emerges. Can Tibet maintain its unique identity in the face of such overwhelming forces? The Tibetan diaspora, scattered across the globe, plays a crucial role in this struggle. Since the Dalai Lama and thousands of Tibetans fled to India in 1959, the exiled community has been tirelessly working to preserve their culture, language, and religion. In places like Dharamshala, Tibetan schools teach the next generation their history and traditions, while monasteries remain vibrant centers of spiritual practice. These efforts have turned exile into a powerful platform for cultural preservation and global advocacy. At the heart of this movement is Tibetan Buddhism, the lifeblood of Tibetan identity. Its teachings of compassion, mindfulness, and the pursuit of enlightenment have inspired millions worldwide. The Dalai Lama, as both a spiritual leader and a global icon, has brought Tibetan Buddhism to the forefront of international awareness. His message of nonviolence and coexistence resonates deeply in a world often marked by division, making Tibet not just a geographical place but a symbol of hope and resilience. But the challenges are immense. Inside Tibet, the Chinese government has sought to integrate the region into modern China, with policies that have reshaped Tibetan society. Development projects, migration, and cultural shifts have created tension between preserving Tibetan traditions and embracing modern opportunities. Many Tibetans within the region face restrictions on their religious practices, while efforts to promote the Tibetan language often clash with policies favoring Mandarin. For the diaspora, maintaining a distinct Tibetan identity in foreign lands comes with its own struggles. Younger generations born outside Tibet sometimes grapple with balancing their heritage with the cultures of their host countries. Yet, their determination to carry forward their ancestors' legacy is unwavering. Festivals, art, and music have become vibrant expressions of Tibetan culture, shared not only within the community but with the world. What sets Tibet apart in this era of globalization is the resilience of its people and their commitment to spiritual values. While political pressures may threaten their autonomy, Tibetans have shown an extraordinary ability to adapt without losing their essence. They've embraced technology and modern platforms to share their culture and advocate for their rights, creating a bridge between the ancient and the modern. So can Tibet maintain its unique identity amidst these challenges? The answer lies in the strength of its people, the monks who preserve sacred teachings, the exiled communities who keep traditions alive, and the younger generations who carry the torch forward. Tibet's identity is not confined to a single place. It lives in the hearts of those who continue to believe in its values of compassion, peace, and resilience. This chapter of Tibetan history is a reminder that identity is not just about the past. It's about the choices we make in the present to shape the future. As we explore this crucial moment in Tibet's journey, we see a powerful story of cultural survival and spiritual strength, one that continues to inspire the world. Tibet's historical relationship with its towering neighbors, China and India, is a story of profound cultural exchange, shifting political powers, and the unyielding spirit of a people determined to preserve their identity. It's a tale that spans centuries, blending moments of harmony and conflict, unity and struggle. As we reflect on this intricate past, we see not just the story of a land, but the enduring legacy of a unique civilization that has captivated the world's imagination. Throughout history, Tibet has stood at the crossroads of these two great cultures. From China came political alliances and trade, while from India came the spiritual teachings that would form the foundation of Tibetan Buddhism. This delicate balance of influence shaped Tibet into a cultural and spiritual beacon, a place where wisdom and resilience flourished against the backdrop of towering mountains and vast plains. But Tibet's story is far from confined to the pages of history. It is a living narrative, one that continues to evolve and challenge us today. In a world of rapid modernization and global political shifts, Tibet faces the pressing question of how to preserve its unique identity while navigating the pressures of the present. It's a struggle that reflects the resilience of its people, both those living in Tibet and the diaspora spread across the world. At the heart of this story lies Tibetan Buddhism, a spiritual tradition that has guided the Tibetan people through centuries of change. Its teachings of compassion, mindfulness, and nonviolence resonate as powerfully today as they did in ancient times, offering a universal message that transcends borders. The Dalai Lama's global advocacy has made Tibetan Buddhism a source of inspiration for millions, emphasizing that even in adversity, there is room for hope, peace, and transformation. Tibet's relationship with China and India further illustrates the complexities of cultural and political dynamics. While these ties have sometimes been fraught with tension, they've also fostered exchanges that enriched Tibet's identity. The question now is how these relationships will evolve in the future, as Tibet continues to navigate its place in a rapidly changing world. So, what does the future hold for Tibet? Can its rich traditions survive the pressures of modernity and global politics? Will its message of peace and resilience continue to inspire future generations? These are questions that invite us all to reflect and engage. Tibet's story is not just about the past. It's a living testament to the strength of culture, faith, and the human spirit. It challenges us to think deeply about identity, coexistence, and the values we hold dear in our own lives. What's your perspective on Tibet's journey and its future? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found this exploration meaningful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more insights into the fascinating stories that shape our world. Together, let's continue to learn from and be inspired by the enduring legacy of Tibet.